What's up, guys? Welcome back to the pod. Today we have Honey on. We are saying farewell to the Yellow House. If you have been around in person, the Yellow House is my sanctuary. It's been my residence for the past 4 years. It's such a sweet, special place to me and to so many people in the community, and where we have recorded all of these podcast episodes so far. And I am moving. I am very excited to be making the move. It is so bittersweet, and we'll dive into this more on the podcast today with Honey. Today, we are also talking about Lineage, something that's very near and dear to my mom's heart. And I'm excited for you guys to just listen to her story and her perspective and what it means to be healing as a mom, to be helping stop behaviors and patterns that have been passed down from generation to generation. And I guess I really shouldn't say stop, I should say heal, kind of softening narratives and ways of living. So it's a really good episode. I highly encourage watching this episode on the YouTube channel. I went ahead and put pictures from us growing up, pictures of me and my mom, of my grandparents, and of the Yellow House in the visuals for YouTube. So this is a really sweet episode to actually watch. That is all I have to say about this episode. Just go ahead and give it a good listen. It's a good one. And then we have an extended version on Patreon. We pulled some Oracle cards, so you can find that over on Patreon on the extended tier. And on Sunday, November 24th is Sunday service. We will be having tea together. We will be getting a good yoga practice in, and then just pulling cards and enjoying each other's company. So bring your favorite coffee mug, bring your favorite tea. I'll have hot water. Bring a notebook and cards if you have them, and your yoga mat. We'll just be hanging out and enjoying each other's company to finish out the year together. So I love you guys so much. Enjoy the podcast episode. Watch us on YouTube, and absolutely head over to the Patreon. The subscription for the extended tier is only $6 a month, and you can have a 7-day free trial. There is so much good shit on the extended tier of Patreon. You get a weekly reading, so we kind of read for the vibe of the week, which I love. And then every week I put some kind of continuing education for esoteric studies on the extended tier of the Patreon. And then, of course, every extended episode of the podcast. So I love you guys so much. I hope you enjoy the episode. Peace out. Honey, welcome back.
It's good to be here.
Honey and I have a few ideas for this episode. She's a very popular guest. I was looking at the podcasting app and seeing which episodes were the highest performing, and all of yours are way at the top, which I love. You are loved in this community.
Very grateful.
So we are sitting here in my sweet yellow house.
Sweet yellow house.
The sweet yellow house. I have been in this house in Covington for 4 years and some change. September made 4 years. And this place has served me and so many of us well.
Very much so.
And my time here is coming to an end as of the end of December. I will be officially a South Shore girly, moving across the lake to be with my sweet man. And
It's the only reason I can handle the move.
Yeah.
Because I love this house.
It's a special place.
But it's a good positive move. So
it's such a good move. Whenever we were first talking about this move, I was having a hard time letting this place go. And then I tried to stay here a few nights by myself, and I was like, it's just, I could feel the end. Yeah, I could feel the end. So she's helping me pack, and we're having one last sleepover here.
It's a good spot.
It's a really good
It's
spot.
it's not only a good spot for us. The sisters are like, how do we keep this place?
I know. It really is such a little gem.
It
It's
really
been,
is.
whenever I was in my in between, I had gone through a breakup and then moved into this in between place for like 6 weeks. And I was just saving money and trying to figure out my next moves because everything was happened pretty quickly. And I had spent a lot of time before the breakup even happened manifesting my perfect home. Like, I would write about what I wanted, how I wanted it to feel, the amount of sunlight, how much greenery was around, could I walk everywhere? Like, I mean, I was very detailed, like, I could feel it. And when I was in my in between home, I was on Zillow regularly and looking for one bedroom apartments in this area, and they were all incredibly expensive. And I just didn't really want to be in a house. And so this spot popped up on Zillow right before I was leaving to go out of town for a weekend. And it was the kitchen floors. They're like that black and white. They're not tile, but they look like tile. And I saw a picture of the kitchen floors and I was like, that is my apartment. Like, I loved where it was. And I'm like, the vibe is so cute. I want it. And so I drove by here before calling and I had said a prayer and a little feather fell into my lap as soon as I parked in front of the spot. And I
Welcome
texted the
home.
landlord. Yeah. And I was like, I don't even need to see it. I'm going out of town. Like, I want this apartment. And here we
Here we are.
are. I had no furniture, nothing. But it was so amazing. It was so aligned because I moved my stuff in and, well, like what I had in, which was like not much at all. And then I got on Facebook Marketplace. I got
Well,
on,
didn't you transition from the suites to here? Like some of your furniture and all came with
no,
you?
nope, because
You were still at
I
the
was still
suites?
in the suites with Giovanna. So I
Okay.
didn't have any salon furniture. That was pretty far down the line. When I had to like configure how all of my salon furniture was also going to
Yeah.
fit in this
Okay.
apartment. But this place was empty. I got that rolling chair from a street festival here. Remember that? The rolling
I
chair?
do remember that.
I had to bargain with the guy and he definitely was probably going to sell it to me for $20. And when I asked how much it was, he was like, how much you want to pay for it? And my dumb ass was like, $65. He was like, that's yours.
Yours.
And like later on, I was like, he was probably going to give this bitch me for like $20. I was so
I
proud
mean,
of
it's a very
myself.
sturdy wooden chair,
I know,
so
it's
you still
good.
got a deal.
And I don't know, everything came together so perfectly and it's such a sweet little vibe. And
I mean, I look around and everything has a purpose and a meaning, and it's really sweet. So,
yeah, it's been a good
and
spot.
I'm so excited that to be here and honor the space because that's been my ritual throughout life as we were kids. I mean, honestly, we stayed in one spot, got married, and then built the home, you know, and then had all the kids on Moonraker, and then moved, boom, 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 so many times. But every space, I've always had a little ritual or ceremony to be like just honoring it, to be the safety, the walls, this, shelter. And I've been fortunate that our spaces have held us I always say the palm of God's hands, and each little space has felt like home, but it's also a time to move, and it.
I
So
think part of it too is that I moved in here alone. Like, I lived in this spot by myself, just me, myself, and Eddie after a while. And it's like bittersweet, the chapter of being a single person in a spot, you know?
in such a sweet spot because your siblings are here,
Yeah.
you have you've created even a work environment around here, and then there's social, and you can
The
always find
river.
something to do around here. And I mean, tonight we went to go get a key, and Lynn, you know, I mean, these people have become your home away from home, so it's sweet. But you take it with you.
I remember one of the first nights here, I laid in this couch and I was sobbing. I mean, like sobbing, like loud, ugly crying. And I was just like, I felt so safe. And I'm like, I don't give a fuck. I need to let these feelings out. And then months and months go by. I feel a lot better. And I'm laying in bed one night, and a new girl moved in on the other side of my bedroom. And I could hear her in the middle of the night
Sobbing.
sobbing. And I had this, my first thought was like, oh no, like just so sad. And then my
Yeah.
next thought was like, oh fuck.
She's.
Oh, everyone could hear me wailing.
Oh.
Like wailing. Like I didn't realize how much you could hear and hear until that moment.
Yeah. Yeah. But you know what? In a way, this house has held space for all of you, you know?
For a lot of people.
Yeah. As you transition. But
So Honey had a conversation she kind of wanted to start today around our lineage.
so when I think of this little yellow house and the voyage of you being independent, um, I mean, we have so much feminine energy in our lineage. You know, there's a lot of just background males, honestly, besides grandpa and your
Yeah.
dad. But when you go back in the lineage, and it's so one of the things as I grew up that was very much in the forefront is my parents are Edwin Lionel Schmidt Sr. and Faye Ethel Schmidt. She's Faye Ethel Schmidt, spelled exactly the same way. And back in the day, when you would go to school and they'd send you home with the forms and they'd be like, mom's got to fill out her maiden name. They'd always send it back and be like, no, we need your mother's maiden name. And my mom would be like, this is my maiden name, Schmidt. So in our lineage, in my particular lineage, it's a really strange dynamic with the Schmidt. In fact, when they got married, they had to have it researched, and it goes back to this small village in Germany, and they're 12th generations removed. They are related, but 12 generations, which could, I mean, to a lot of viewers out there, could explain a lot about my personality, but that's for another session. But so they are, that's how it is. And when you go down my mom's side of it, which is the family that we're closest to, because my dad was 14 years younger than his sister and 16 years younger than the brother. So he was like an only child. So we didn't really know that side of the family very well. But on my mom's side of the family is her two sisters, and June and Barbara, and their parents, which was Oscar Frederick Schmidt and let me think of which one comes first. Bertha Ursula. I couldn't remember if it was Ursula Bertha, or it's Bertha Ursula Schmidt. And she was a Dupree before that. But so then we're going to go down to it, the closest side for them, and they were raised, the sisters, the dad, Oscar, his mother had a sister. It was Pauline, and I can't remember because we called them Gross Mama and Grandma Hattie. So it was Grandma Hattie and Pauline, and then Gross Mama. Gross Mama came over from Germany. Is this okay? Am I following this? Okay. And this is where I don't know how, as a child, I just remember really needing to focus and pray on this. And my Aunt Barbara, so the oldest of the three sisters, it's my mom, Faye, June, and Barbara. She kind of is the historian, okay? So she carries all of the stories. And so when Grandma Hattie came over, she was 12 and her sister was 16. And they came over alone from Germany, which didn't really affect me. I remember hearing the story that they came over and they actually were, I mean, I don't know how else to say it, but they were servants for children. So when they came over, one was a servant for the children, like the playmate. They were just a little bit older, but they were kind of raised as a sibling, but not really because they took care of him. But they were only a little bit older than the children of a wealthy family. So Grandma Hattie was here in New Orleans. I mean, Grossmama was here in New Orleans. And then the other sibling was in Lafayette, the older sibling is 16. And I just, over the years, remember thinking, how did they get over here? You know, at 16 and 12 years old, what tragedy happened where you send a child on a ship across where you're never going to see him again? And I don't really know that story. I really don't know why that happened. And there's not much to that, you know? And but as I had you guys, okay, know. I wasn't raised to believe in generational bondage or anything. I was raised to be very religious. I was baptized Presbyterian and then converted to Catholicism at second grade. And so I only knew that Catholic faith really, but I remember having babies and praying, like just instinctively to break bondages that would happen. And these two sisters came up. So when as I got older and I learned some more stories and questions to ask, there's a weird dynamic that my grandfather Oscar, his grandfather is on the birth certificate as his father. So it's Hattie, Grandma Hattie, as the mother and William as the father. And it was just told to us that we didn't know who the grandfather was, you know, and that they just put that on there. And I don't know how that goes. You know, I don't know if they can, you know, there's no DNA test and all. I don't know why. But we never really heard about William. Like, nobody really talked about him. I thought he died a long time ago, but the truth is he didn't. He was around the whole time my grandfather was being raised, but nobody ever talked about him. So in our lineage, there's not a lot of male figures, you know. And then Grandpa, Oscar Frederick, we didn't really know about him. I never knew about him because he died before I was born. I mean, he was a little tiny short guy, like 4'9", and he was a merchant marine, and he was a good old boy, like neighborhood in Gentilly bar friends and stuff like that. And he died at 49, you know, just not good health. And so after just years and years of pondering and you think back to the times of that, and then you kind of look at forward and see what women struggle with today, and you have to wonder, like, how hard could it be for two sisters to come over at 16 and 12 to be in New Orleans port and to be alone, you know? What was the business that they were in, you know, serving small children, you know, and families? What kind of family do you have? So our women really are strong.
Who is
strong,
protecting them?
Yeah, and very protective. Very protective. It's not that they didn't like men, but they really didn't almost seem like they needed
Well,
them.
I'm saying more of like who was protecting those
That's
girls.
right. Who was protecting them? Well, so then they didn't even have each other because they brought like 2 years. She's 14 and the other one now is 18 and goes to visit. The family brought her to visit her sister in Lafayette, and the sister had alcohol, like something. And the younger sister, gross mama, wanted her to share it with her, and she wouldn't, and she never spoke to her again. So how that dynamic in itself, you don't know anybody else. You know what I'm saying? And then you choose to be like, no, I'm never speaking to you again. You know, I know there's more to the story, but I'm just
well,
saying.
also, if they're living so far away from each other during that time, how are they even able to maintain a relationship?
Right.
It's not like they had internet or cell
Right.
phones or
Right.
Did they just write letters? Like,
Right.
did they even have access to that? Like,
Yeah, and then what was happening, that person felt like they needed that sister or what, you know what I'm saying,
right.
to be
And
there
then
for them, and
what
they're
were the
like,
houses like that they were working in?
yeah,
Like what happened to them?
yeah, and like things maybe aren't shared with you, and so you finally have somebody. I don't know, but there's so much to think about, and but anyway, how those personalities, that's what molds you. You're setting your environment. That's what creates for you to have the dynamic of your family now was molded by that. So here is the generational bondage, understanding the strong women in our lives. I mean, when y'all were growing up and we were going through counseling, the lady's name was Terry. I can't think of her last
I
name.
remember
I
her.
think it might have been Terry Garr. I know that's a Terry. I know she just passed away, an actress, but it was similar to that lady's name. And anyway, she was a counselor out here, and her husband was a doctor, and she was referred, and we all went in, and so what would happen is we go in and we talk, and then her and I would have a little brief,
Like a powwow.
like a what do you call it when you
Debrief.
debrief? That's it, a debriefing, And she would be like, "How do you do this?" Because at the time you were probably like 15, 15, 14, 12,
Yeah.
11, and then Kenny, and at like 8, and she'd be like, you have, like most time I see families and they have like dynamics where some people are just really meek, and have to come out their shells. She's like, you have zero. None of your people everyone is a strong independent personality. And I don't think that I'm not a strong independent personality, but I think that you guys inherited genetically, that you have, and of course I empower it. I empower it. I didn't stop it or try to squish you or, create you to be something that I wanted you to be. I
Yeah.
let you guys all, evolve with your strengths and weaknesses. But anyway, so that is what my sense of the generational bondage is. Overcoming the fears, the anxieties that I feel these women went through, and caused them to pass on. Does that make sense? Because some of the things that we have and that we experience and that we feel are not really a reality for us. You see what I'm saying?
Like, elaborate.
Okay, let me think. When y'all were kids, and just in the play that y'all would have, just in the strong personalities, I feel some of that is passed on generationally. I do, and like Kayla being a baby and being so intensely frustrated where she would turn light gray, pass out, take minutes to come through and come back. Like that personality and that part of her already existed. Your personality was that you were so strongly independent that you would, I mean, it was like you were 2.5 and we never really had to discipline you. You were, you know, just a 2.5 year old learning the world. And then all of a sudden you learned your power, that you had a say in things and that you could be upset and frustrated and you could change the course of what would happen in your day. And you of course were the first. And I remember, I don't know if we ever just talked about this, your temper tantrums. And it was so intense the first time that you really were like, no, I am not backing down. It was 3 hours.
It's a long time.
It's a long time. And your dad would be working and in the area, because he worked from home at that time. And he I was like, I can't do it. You know, he'd still here, you know, like he'd call and check, and I'm like, I can't do it anymore. He's like, that's it, I'm coming home. And I remember him coming home, and he's like, that's it, I'm gonna whip her behind. You know, and I'm like, go do it, you know. And he put you on the bed so you were eye level, and he was like, this is gonna hurt me more than it hurts you. And he whooped your bottom, mostly hitting on your diaper,
Mm-hmm.
and you turned around instantly and hit him back. And he came back. He just left you on the bed, and he's like, she hit me. I'm like, I saw. And he's like, I'm gonna do it again. And so he's like, this is gonna hurt me, and he hit you harder, and you hit him harder. And he's like, and I'm like, yeah, you know, I saw it. And he's like, I'm doing it again. And the third time, and then he came back and he said, this isn't working.
No.
It didn't work because you came back at him every time. And then we called the pediatrician. The pediatrician said, it's going to take a little while, but you're going to put her behind the gate, and you're going to tell her you're okay when you calm down. And it took us about 2 weeks, and a lot of screaming, and a lot of you you would it sounded like you were possessed, and you'd be like, I know you're here. And you were such a tiniest little thing. You know, when you
I
see the
was
little
mad.
pictures, you were ticked. And but like so what I'm saying is, each of you had a strong, at different times in your that a strong independent will that you're born with, that's molded, you know. I honestly feel, the more I learn about it, that there's an energetic passing from mother to child, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that is a bond, that's part of the generational bond, you know. And for me, I just would pray. And it wasn't so much that I was trying to break the bonds, but I was trying to mold it. You know, I was
Mm-hmm.
trying to mold it to be like, I don't know what this is, but I know she's gonna need it in life, you know. And you did. We went through an awful
Mm-hmm.
lot. And so that energy that was stored in your soul, your spirit, it was something. I mean, I feel like you're given everything you need, and you just have to be able to navigate it,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And so that was my prayer. And for what reason? Who We didn't know about this. We didn't know
Mm-hmm.
about energy work and all that stuff. But that is just something that instinctively, as a mother, that came up, you know.
Is there something specific that you feel has been like assigned to you to?
I do. I do. In particular, in our lineage, there's always, and I don't know if this is a German culture thing, because there's a few people that I've spoken to that feel like they have had this same thing, where one child in each family is designated to pretty much sacrifice their life and give up their life to tend to the will of the parents, you know. And in my grandmother's lineage, it was her sister, it was my grandma, her brother, and then a little sister, Olga. And she at third grade, she was taken out of school, and she couldn't even go to school. She had to stay home with her mom. And she never got married until she was like 65, you know. She got married at 65. It's another weird dynamic where the uh, the gentleman she married was somebody who rented a space in their home. Like, the dad let him rent a space in their home. And so we always knew him as like Mr. Joe, and he came everywhere with the family, but he never was like considered her boyfriend or
Mm-hmm.
anything, you know. And then in it was Aunt Barbara, June, and Granny. And I would say, I mean, Granny, great grandma wound up living with us and across the street from us. And then in my lineage, it was me. you know. And growing up, it wasn't. It, I don't think of it in any other way as being it was assumed. I guess it was told to me. I'm not gonna lie, that was my job, to take care of them. You know, they didn't really believe in friends. They didn't believe in friends. They only believed in family, and it would be told to you that you could only trust family. And y'all growing up, I never really believed that. I never really fostered that to you guys. So yes, that would be the one thing that I feel like I was meant to break that, where I believe that you guys were created individually, and that each of you had a purpose, and that each of you had gifts. And since y'all's personalities were so different, it was easy for me believing that. I didn't try to persuade you, or I mean, I did try to persuade you and say these are our beliefs, like believe in God. And,
Mm-hmm.
you know, I did believe that family was important, but I always wanted you guys to have other friends outside of
Mm-hmm.
us, just because I missed it, you
Yeah.
know? So, I mean, does that answer your
Yeah,
question?
for sure.
And on your end, what do you say? Because you didn't get to see a lot of that, but you could see a little bit of it.
Um, I feel that I feel very motivated in my life to encourage people to find themselves, like to tune out a lot of the noise and to tune into who they are, to really tune into their spirit, their soul. I've never felt drawn specifically to our family. I feel like right now in this period of my life, I'm very aware. I'm becoming very aware of the things that I believe and where they come from, and are they actually valid beliefs, or is it just something that I believe because I've heard it so often? Is the way that I live my life aligned with my soul, or do I feel so much resistance sometimes because I'm like hearing something grandpa has said all of
Yeah,
our life,
right.
like I'm,
Scripts,
yeah,
scripting,
narratives.
narratives.
I'm really exploring that. Like, I remember having this chapter where I don't remember if it was necessarily, I don't think it was high school. I think it was shortly after high school, where I was really anxious about a lot of things. And having this moment of clarity where I'm like, why the fuck am I anxious about this? Like, who even said that this is the way things
Right,
are? And
right.
then I realized that I may only have this perception because this is the perception that's been passed down to me over and over again. And there could be an entire lifestyle, an entire belief system, an entire, way of life that I haven't even experienced yet that can be significantly more aligned and less stressful than what it is that I've been choosing to believe. Like a lot of things around money,
Yeah,
a lot of things around spirituality, obviously, about what it means to be in partnership. And honestly, I think that you and dad not working out and us having to move through all of that created a lot of freedom in relationship, because I feel as if the slate was kind of wiped clean. And although there was a lot of shit to work through because of that, there was also like, you can kind of have whatever you want.
yeah,
What do you want? You
yes.
know?
I mean, as we talk here, and it's hard for me to okay, there's just underlying things that don't really make sense in the line of. So Grandma Hattie was married to William. William was a police officer, one of the first police officers in New Orleans, and that they lived in Gentilly, and so that beat was like French Quarter and all, and Grandma Hattie used to grow mint, and she was the mint lady over in the French Quarter. And so that little business was kept up through Pauline, her daughter, and so Gross. It was Gross Mama. Gross Mama was a mint lady, and that business was passed on to Pauline and Grandma Hattie. And so Grandma Hattie's the one who had Oscar. Pauline was married twice. Now, back in the day, you didn't do that. She was a redhead, and she was married twice, didn't have kids. She divorced, and then she married another gentleman. And I think she wound up divorcing him too, and then just being, single. And then Grandma Hattie didn't get married. They don't know who the dad was. But again, remember, she's working in the French Quarter, selling mint to all of the bars and the hotels. So she had a whole bunch of people that she was in contact with. Probably whole. I mean, it was a port city, you know, and but it doesn't match up with what they used to send the kids to church, but they didn't go to church. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's like they were trying to create a life that they didn't know.
Well, also as immigrants, which I feel like, especially in that time,
Yeah.
there were so many people coming over here.
And again, like you're saying, creating your own life.
You just want to fit in.
You just want to fit in.
It's safe to fit in. Like, your safety, your survival
And maybe you
relies on fitting in with the
Right.
community. And so I feel as if now everyone's kind of settled here. I mean, our people, there's still people who are in this survival mode,
Yeah,
whatever.
right.
But there's a safety net of, like, you're established. And so now you can explore who you actually are.
And then think about it. The people that were here were so diverse. I mean, you had some missionaries, you had some wealthy people, and then you had a lot of scoundrels. You know, because that's what they sent over to create the new world. You know? And so it had to be a crazy place for two young girls to be,
Yeah.
not having, So I feel like there's a hardness to our women,
Yeah.
especially in the older generation. I feel like there's a hardness. I feel like there's some depression.
Without a doubt.
Without a doubt. And so maybe that's how I'm trying to say,
It also seems as if there was a major lack of communicating.
Well, I think that they were very secretive.
They were incredibly secretive.
Okay, because they didn't know who was their friends. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Who could you trust in that time?
Yeah.
Who could you trust? They weren't really religious. So I mean, they didn't come over as little mission children. They really came over as servants. I mean, I'm not trying to say that they were slaves, but how much money and welfare could they have been, gotten, There's not a lot that says that these people took them in to be part of family.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So I think that is when you are thinking about the times and I think that it was a survival of the fittest, and I really do think that young women were targets, just like it is today, but even worse than, somebody who doesn't have a parent, somebody who doesn't have somebody to look at, look for them.
And I'm sure the same thing is still happening today.
Yeah, no,
We're just
and when
in a
you look at it
different
today
season of
and you
this.
look at the sex trafficking and all, well, think of it then,
Right.
when you got nobody looking out for you, I don't know. That was just.
I mean, I feel like there are people right now who are in that chapter of their lineage and their family stories who are, like, we're talking about specifically our family.
Right.
But there are probably so many families out there who are in the thick of the pain and the isolation and, like.
Well, I think it's looking to see what no longer serves you, and that's what you try to break off.
Right.
What no longer serves you. What was something that is instinctive? I mean, it happens in animals. Animals still they are bred and they herd and and you could get a dog that's been in that line of herding. They already do it.
It's evolution.
It's evolution, but I think that that's part of it too, where the survival of the fittest comes down, and that's how your people who were your parents, and then you just learn what worked then,
Yeah.
but then it changes. So the problem is people not changing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm not blaming people for what they did and how they survived, but what I'm saying is, as it comes down, some of it becomes evolution and some of it becomes a bondage.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. Being stuck.
So being stuck. And that's how I feel like the generational bondage is created. Believing that there's nobody else you can trust but family. Okay. Some people are family that's not blood,
Mm-hmm.
you know? And thank goodness, because I have a brother who moved away. I have a sister who passed away. And literally, I was alone with Granny and Grandpa, and you guys,
Mm-hmm.
But I have had so many wonderful people come into my life
Right.
when I needed them. And if I denied that, then basically, yeah, I become the slave and I become resentful and
Right.
I become depressed. But it's being in a moment and saying, this no longer serves me. And I actually remember coming up to my mom and dad and saying, and I know you guys remember one particular argument. It was after Katrina. Your dad and I were divorced. We were living in a house. Their home was, they couldn't be in their home. They had a camper outside of our home, and their home was fixed, but they were still there. And your dad would come around to help, but Granny and Grandpa were mad at your dad,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And I remember thinking, this is not fair for your dad to feel uncomfortable in a home that he gave us this home to live
Mm-hmm.
in, to be comfortable while our home was getting fixed next to Granny and Grandpa's. And Granny and Grandpa would make him feel uncomfortable coming around. And I said, no, it's time for y'all to go back. And I've never spoken up to
Mm-hmm.
Granny and Grandpa like that. And they went back with their tail between their legs, offended and hurt, because I stood up for my family.
Mm-hmm.
And I got a nasty letter that said I was putting myself as a doormat to your dad, my ex, and that the best I could hope for was to be a Walmart greeter, because I was turning my back on my family. But that's not true. I was
Defending your
defending my
family.
family.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't understand that they were the back burner
Mm-hmm.
family now. Like, yeah, I love you and I appreciate you, but my kids need me,
Right.
So that dynamic, everything was only good as if I still followed along
Right.
that. And that doesn't serve you. It doesn't serve
Mm-hmm.
you. It doesn't serve me to be able to understand life in the present time.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the dynamic that I think, and that I really do feel like, because Granny and Grandpa were such a huge part of your life, that's something that I think you didn't have to be as aware of, but you always do.
Mm-hmm.
Talking to them in conversations, it's kind of like still there.
Mm-hmm.
And you had to be aware of it when you were talking to them.
Oh yeah.
I mean, think of the lectures and all
Yeah.
that, Grandpa's lectures. Can you remember any
Oh
of them?
yeah. I went on Facebook and read some of the old ones from him. This was just a couple weeks ago. I went and looked up um, old messages he sent me. And
He would be
yes,
Chief Running Mouth. That's what it was.
yes, and I mean, I could see I could see the underlying tones of like what he was trying to say, and at the core of it, how much he cared. But I was also,
So here's another one, because I didn't, as we're talking about it, Grandpa was born at like week 25 or something, way back in 1940. He should not have lived. He was born. She was pregnant and she had him at like week 25, and he was in the hospital way back then. They called him incubator. His nickname was Inky, and he could fit in a cigar box. That's how little he was. Grandpa had a fear of abandonment,
mm-hmm,
and it came through everything he talked about, which is one of the reasons he's like, you can't trust you can't trust friends. You can only be with family. And so any conversations he had with you were skewed because that's how he perceived the world, that
Mm-hmm.
to be that abandoned child. And it's something because he was in the hospital so long and you didn't really go out and you didn't touch the babies and all at that time. So that is another dynamic
Mm-hmm.
that I felt that we had to overcome, the fear of
Yeah.
abandonment. And I still think that that one is one that I struggle with because I always think, well, I'm not lovable, or and it's because of having that perspective of my parents. You could only do so much, but if you didn't do that, that maybe you were unlovable.
Right.
I don't think they meant it to be that way. I just think that that's how they were raised,
Right.
and that's how they perceive the world,
Right.
which is, like I said, probably because of those two sisters coming over. They had certain things they had to follow, and if they didn't follow the family that they lived with or whatever, that maybe they didn't have somebody to give them that love.
Right.
That's the bondage and the generational thing that I feel like I just instinctively knew to work on with you
Mm-hmm.
guys.
Yeah, I can see that. I think it's interesting. I haven't dove a lot into these theories or these practices. So it's interesting to hear you talk about. I feel like a lot of what I spend time thinking about is like just immediate things, in which, I mean, our belief systems all come from somewhere.
Right.
Of a lot of the times my thought is like, which thoughts are mine and which thoughts are other people.
Right.
And then, you know, like staying open and wanting to explore and wanting to expand the way that I think and the way that I see the world, and still being open to, especially being in the salon, you hear so many people's stories and where they come from and what they're working on in their life, and you can kind of see the repeating patterns and the repeating stories. And I think a lot of it's in the mind, and then I think a lot, like, the narratives and the stories we tell ourselves and the limiting beliefs that we have. And then I also think so much of it is human nature and our need to be in community and our need to be loved and accepted. Like, even a lone wolf. Like, I've met people and spent a lot of time with people who consider themselves to be lone wolves, and that's not true. Like, they are, a lot of these people are actually aching to be accepted and have just put themselves in the box of the lone wolf because they don't feel like they deserve to be loved, but then they call themselves a lone wolf. And so when someone tries to come in and be loving towards them, they've
It's
already
their
told
identity.
themselves they
That's
don't.
their identity,
Exactly.
right?
So I feel like for me, the practice has been to just not become too attached to any one story. I mean, even when we were kids and we would go to church, I just remember, and I've talked about this many times before on the podcast, I remember being very, very little, like very young. Like, it had to be around first communion age, and like the whole time I'd say Mary Mary. So we can say like second grade to like eighth grade, and then of course in high school as an adult. But I remember it being that young, just going to church on Sunday and feeling so sad that, and confused as to why I'm given the opportunity to go to heaven because I was brought up in this family. But what about all of the poor children all over the world who practice Buddhism, or who are indigenous, or who are African or Indian or whatever? Like, how unfair is it that they don't have the same opportunity to be in heaven because they
Yeah.
are being brought up in a way that, like, that's such
Right.
a big concept for someone so
Right.
young to
Right.
understand. Like, that has to
Right.
be like, just, I don't know, just a very like wise thought to
Yeah.
have, and to just pray for them and be super thankful that I was brought up in a family that's going to bring me straight to heaven, and then
Yeah.
go about
Right.
my business. But
Right.
the and then, I mean, in therapy, we talk a lot about how the way that you're raised and the things that happen in your home as a child, like, shape who you are. And then whenever you find yourself in a challenging situation in your adult life, like, what about, like, just like you were saying, like, what about the way that you were raised, or what ideas are you clinging to that are causing you more discomfort
Right.
than they are? And not
Right.
that
What no longer serves
well
you.
longer serves. And a lot of what's coming up for me right now, as I sit down and try to, I like meditate on the content that I want to put out this month for the Patreon, and where do I feel guided to go. A lot of what's coming up and something that I haven't really been able to sit with is resistance. And we want flow, and we want to go with the flow, and we want to find the path of least resistance. But I also feel as if there's this call to be at peace, like with the resistance, and to learn how being in that space of discomfort and resistance actually builds strength and builds character. So it makes me question too, in what ways do we find flow or look for flow when we're actually taking the easy way out, as opposed to actually learning something and meeting resistance and expanding. And I think that can be a double-edged sword. Like, we can be like fighting so hard against something that we were raised with that actually
Right.
does serve us really
Right.
well, or we can be avoiding conflict with our families by living the way that they insist is the way to live, because that seems easier, when actually meeting the resistance and fighting for what it is you truly believe could actually be the way to more freedom and more flow, by meeting that
So
resistance head on.
that does, when I go to counseling, and one of the things, you know, like, my mom was a real quiet person. She didn't really hold conversations. Like, very loving, and her and my dad were real loving, but not so affectionate to me. She was affectionate to the babies and all, but so, like, kind of not. I don't ever remember anybody saying, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" or "What are your thoughts? How do you see your life? What kind of guy do you want to marry?" It really wasn't. Basically, it just wasn't discussed. I think they were just really busy. Anyway.
And you wonder, like, did their parents have those
Yeah,
conversations with
right.
them?
So
Because
that's the whole point. So when I talked to the counselor about, and he's like, "How do you handle that now? Because you do have thoughts and you have ideas." And I just say, I feel that my mom didn't have that as when she was younger.
Granny
You
told
know?
me that when she started her period, she thought she was dying, because no one ever told her that was coming.
And
Ever.
nobody told me that either, but we did it in school. I remember getting my first bra at 9, and my sister, being 6 years older than me, and my mom went out shopping and brought it back, and I was just like hanging out with my dad and my brother at home. And I remember him going into the, handed me the bra and said, "Go in the bathroom and put that on." And I was like, "What the hell is this?" I have no idea what this is. And then I came out with the bra on, showed him, like, "Okay, here it is." And I remember my sister going into the room, throwing herself on the bed, because it was a training bra, and I was already I was like a C, because, but they waited that long before they put anything
Oh,
on
dear
me.
God.
I know, dear God. And then they said, "Okay, we got to go get her something." And Becky was like a minus A in
Yeah.
her chest size. And I'm like, "I don't know what this is. I don't want it." And then put it on, and then we shared a room. She's screaming, crying, and throwing herself on the bed. So yeah, I had no idea. It just wasn't discussed. But again, I went to a school where they put that in, so
That's
I knew a little bit
helpful.
of, yeah.
Granny said she, for months, just didn't say anything. She thought she was dying, and she didn't want anyone to be concerned. So I can't imagine they asked her
Yeah,
what
it
kind of
was
man
just a
she wanted
much
to
quiet.
marry,
Yeah,
or what she
right,
wanted to do with
right,
her life.
right. No, right, correct.
I mean, both of her sisters eloped.
So that's what I say. Now, as she's older and it's just her and I, she's very quiet. Granny can be sometimes on a negative side, and I don't really engage in that. When we comes time to talk, and somebody will call up and try to talk shit about the other one, and I'm like, I'm not doing it. I mean, I'm not saying I don't, but I feel like you're not going to call me. All of you guys know, if you're going to call and rag on somebody, you're not going to call Honey,
Right.
because Honey's going to take her time, and she's going to shut it down, because I want you all to feel like when you call me, I'm not doing that about you to the other sibling,
right.
But Granny loves to talk some shit.
I know.
She loves to talk some shit. So it's hard for us to sit down at a table and have a conversation, because we come from two different worlds.
Right.
So, but we have certain shows. We talk about the grandbabies. And that's my thing. Like, I want to provide a loving and hold space for her in a positive way as she gets older, because she was worried that she would become depressed and mean and
Like
hateful,
her mom.
be like her mom did, because they shared a home, together. She had the little a garage apartment. So, that's it. But
Yeah.
here's what I want to say. As we're sitting here talking about this, and we're talking about seeing what no longer serves, the yellow house. What kind of place was this
Before me?
before here?
Oh my God. Well, I can tell you a really
No,
good
but I
story.
mean, like, originally.
Oh, this was a hotel in like the 1800s.
So I mean, how amazing! Like, it
I
doesn't.
know.
It's not a home, but it's not a hotel. But all the different little people that have
Oh, I
come
think
to
about
be
it
a safe
often.
house.
Every now and then I would feel something in here and I'm like, who are you? Why are you here? Like, and just the energy of this place has been really interesting. Like, I remember when Giovanna and I was single. Her fiance, it might have just been her boyfriend at the time, had gone away for training. Lockdown, like just so much shit happened. And she and I were spending a lot of time here and we would like do energy work and have these girls' nights in here or whatever. And I remember sometimes just like sensing something in this house that I just didn't love. And then other times you can hear people laughing and singing. Like there's just been such an interesting group of people in and out of this place. I think that I have, no, there's one guy that's been here longer than me and he's been here a long time. But it's interesting to think about how it's evolved. And I definitely feel a bittersweet feeling because this has been one of my favorite chapters of my life so far. I mean, I remember tucking myself in at night before Eddie. It was just me in this apartment and just thinking, like, you did it. Like, you did a whole day by yourself. Like, we're going to sleep alone. Like, you're doing the damn thing. And I mean, I'm very, very proud of myself and all of the things that I have been through so far in my life and how I have come to this moment that I love so, so much. And truly, this home in my adult life, really, even through high school, has been the longest I've ever been in one place. And I am very excited to move in with Jordan because it's the best thing to do. And we're so happy and very excited about the future together. But it is hard to let go of this chapter because I am going to miss this place so much. But it doesn't feel the same. Like there's nothing wrong with it. But
Yeah.
When we had made the choice to make this move, I told myself I would spend as much time here as I could to soak it in. And there doesn't feel like there's anything left to
no
soak
longer
in.
serves you,
Yeah,
baby.
it's time
It doesn't.
it's time
and
to go.
good for you for
Yeah.
realizing it.
I was on a call. I'm in Sarah's Practical Magic program. It's like a 6-week program, and it's introducing people to like everyday magic and what it means, and just people who are very new to the whole concept of like spirituality and or who are interested in it and wanting to dive deeper into it. And we had pulled cards for each other and broke off into to like one-on-one groups. And the card that was pulled was about not really feeling like you have a home, like transition. Mm-hmm. I'm like, yeah, this card speaks to me. Like I'm in the process of moving. And I had told her that I came into this spot after, a heartbreak and wanting to like build myself up again and find myself and have a safe space to do that. And she was telling me how she's a little bit older than me, how she had a similar experience. She had gone through a divorce and moved into her own place. And when it was time to leave, she had put her hands on the ground and was like doing a ritual to leave. Mm-hmm. And she said she went in each room in the house and touched the ground because she was having a hard time leaving. And she's like, I just felt into the sadness that was here for so long. Yeah. And she's like, I loved the space. I feel exactly as you do about your home. She's like, but if you really feel into it, like what happened here? Yeah. And I love that she said that because it did take me back to, when I moved in here, I had so much anger and so much heartache. And I didn't sleep. This is not an exaggeration. There were weeks where I wasn't sleeping because I was so angry. And I would literally get up in the middle of the night. I would put on this album that I was loving at the time. I didn't turn on any lights. And I would just dance in and out of the 3 rooms in this house because I wanted to work off some of the anger and frustration and sadness. And I was so broken when I came here. And I have like I became an aunt in this house. I started opening myself up to love again in this place. Jordan and I found each other. We had small group women's circles in here. Like there's just, I just took care of myself and nurtured myself back to health, and I fucking loved it. I loved it so much.
I have to give a shout out because how proud. Okay, first of all, I didn't know this until your adult life and my adult life that there was such a thing as sneak moving in.
Oh my God.
And how proud am I of you, and you should be of you, that this is not a sneak move in.
No, this was like
This is such an adult, grown up
choice.
choice.
Yeah.
Choice.
I think that if I had not had this apartment, I probably would have
Snuck
moved
in.
into Jordan's house.
But so you didn't.
No,
you didn't need to.
no, we
That's so mature.
made the choice together. Jordan is the
Yes.
most grounded human I have literally ever met in my life.
There's some. So the other thing is there's some really good times. Let me think of one of my favorite memories here is Courtney's birthday, Valentine's Day, and she did the dance singing. Who was here with us? Was it?
My
Was it
God.
Giovanna? Who was here with us? No. It was Sam.
Sammy.
Massage Sam. Yes. And Jesus was at the.
Yes,
Jesus
there were many
was-
nights of Courtney karaokeing in this house.
Yeah,
I
but that
remember
was the
her
first
and
time
Rudy getting in a fight about something ridiculous. And she came over here and wrapped herself up in a towel like the Blessed Mother or something, and wanted to sing Adele so dramatically. Like break up Adele songs because she was mad at Rudy. And I'm like, this dude has got to be in so much trouble because this is the most dramatic Adele performance I've ever seen in my life.
Then I came here during COVID and was doing yoga and wound up doing a headstand, which I was so very proud of, but wound up messing up my neck. And it was probably...
Was I here?
Yeah, you weren't here, but I did it when you weren't here. Yeah, up against that wall right there.
My God.
And I was so proud that I could do that, but I had already had disc damage, and then so then I used this spot to heal through that. It was so much fun.
I did not know that.
Yeah,
This is where Eddie came into the picture.
this is where Eddie came into the picture, and then
He is trying to get the fuck out of this house right now.
this is 4 years. So Teddy was around, but we had Teddy here. We used to bring him to the park.
Yep.
We in the wagon.
Courtney announced her pregnancy
Kayaking.
here. Yep.
Courtney announced the pregnancy. We did the kayaking on the river. Yeah, so many good things. Very adventurous.
Yeah, this has been, I love this place. I really do. And I
Walk
this
into the
chapter will
moon, the
always
full moon,
be-
go into the courthouse in the parking lot.
Yep. This chapter will always be one of my most favorites. It has been so beautiful. I can't wait to create another home.
Thank you, Yellow House. We
Yeah.
do appreciate it.
I really hope and pray for
The
this
next-
spot to be, speaking of lineage, to be passed down from one like very loving person to another. Like with all of the fucking magic that's been done in this house, I really hope that it has become, this specific apartment has become a portal for people to walk into
And heal.
and heal
Yep. I
and
agree.
move on and like leave it better than they
Yep.
found it.
Yep.
Truly, because this is, the vibe before me was fucking weird. It was like my first week here. I had no dog. It was just me, barely any furniture. And I was sleeping and I heard someone at my door trying to use a key to get in. Like at first I heard someone at the door and I was like, I'm just going to sleep through this. Then I have this realization that I am the man of the house. And like, it was 3:00 in the morning and I'm like, what the fuck? I'm in like an oversized t-shirt and my underwear. And I hear someone pull out a key. So I'm like, oh no. Like I'm going to
stop
meet
this.
whoever this is at the door.
Yes.
Not in my room.
Yes,
you know?
right.
And so I get up and I open the door and it's 2 cops and the girl who lived in this apartment before me, drunk as fuck.
Poor baby got confused.
No, apparently when she was living here, she was hooking up with the guy upstairs. And before I went to bed, I heard people fighting. And so she would have too much to drink and start a scene with him. And when the cops were called, she told them that she lived here so she wouldn't get in trouble.
Oh.
So they were like, does she live here? I'm like, she used to live here. I'm like, she does not live here anymore.
You're not coming in, baby.
I'm like, you should probably get in trouble
Yeah, right.
for what you're doing right now.
Yes.
And then I called my landlord the next day. I'm like, can you come change the locks in this place?
And did he?
Because she tried to get in at 3:00 in the morning. Yeah, of course. My landlord has been awesome. Like, I hear
Good.
people complain about their landlords, but he's great. So this is a little gem
Yes.
of a space. It really is.
Yeah.
It served us all really well.
I'm going to miss Mardi Gras here.
Mardi Gras, I miss cooking in my little kitchen for myself.
We had some Granny and Aunt Barbara here for
Christmas.
We had a little Christmas event. Mm-hmm. Yep.
It's been a sweet space.
It's been very good. Thank you very much. Gratitude for this.
For the Yellow House. And
I'm going to miss my walks to the Southern and getting my drink.
I mean, you can still do that. It's just different.
I'm going to have to use my key for who's here.
Yeah.
Hello?
Lord have mercy.
Lord have mercy.
I can see it.
The honey pops in on the new
the new tenant.
Hi.
Oh, my Lord.
Just kidding.
I know. Well, this was lovely.
Yeah, always.
Lovely. I love you guys. Head on over to Patreon for weekly readings. I don't know that we'll have an extended of this episode.
I think we should pull some cards after this.
Okay. Put them on the extended.
And then talk about that.
Okay. I like that idea a lot. So if you want an extended version of this episode, Mom and I are going to pull some cards. Some cards around ending the year and new beginnings.
Maybe some ancestors.
So yeah, I like that idea.
Because that the one thing that we'll talk about this at the next one, but I'd like to bring up an algo.
Okay, let's do it. So guys, head on over to the Patreon. There's a link in the bio. If you like to listen to the extended versions of the podcast, you must pick the extended tier. There is a lot of good stuff on there. We love you guys so much. See you over on the Patreon.
Thank you. Blessings and grace.